say I'm not always going to get partnership working right, not an expert in it, but increasingly our funding is getting cut. We have fewer resources, both money and people time. And working in partnership is one of the ways that we're using to try and still achieve more for our rivers and try and improve things. So why bother working in partnerships at all? What's the point of this? Found quite a nice little phrase that I think sums it up quite nicely. The whole is greater than the sum of its partners. So basically the whole point of working in partnership is that you'd be able to do more than you could on your own. So for example, for me, my remit is based around sort of rivers and wet habitats. So all of the sort of other habitat types and species relying on non-wet habitats, I wouldn't really be able to get that involved with. But working, for example, with the Wildlife Trust and things like that, that's when I could sort of try and tag on some additional benefits to project work and actually sort of make a bit more of it. So what are the sort of benefits that you can expect from working in partnership, and why would you work in partnership at all? Sharing skills and expertise. It might be sort of survey work and things like that. For example, when we work on projects, we can sort of carry out services checks and things, so we can get some of that in. Resources, money obviously is the obvious one, but also staff time. It might be a simple thing like having a venue to host an event. Sharing knowledge and experience, that could be such simple things as just having some local knowledge. I know a lot of the angling groups obviously have a huge amount of knowledge about their local bits of rivers, and obviously sort of river restoration experience and things like that. It's obviously really valuable if you've worked with contractors in the past and things like that to actually bring that onto a project. Cost savings, try and look for partners who might sort of save you having to go to a consultancy, pay for fees and things like that. We can help sort of provide some sort of river restoration designs and things like that. It might be that you can work with the local authorities and they can help you sort of through the sort of planning application side of things, for example. Inspiration, creativity. A lot of the partners that we work with, we sort of help get some support on engagement, so we run sort of public consultation events and things like that. It can help to bring in a lot more ideas and actually try and achieve a bit more within the project. Funding opportunities. I'm finding increasingly that when you're bidding for funding, they're expecting a level of partnership within that. So actually working in a partnership sort of opens the door a bit more in terms of what funding you might be able to get hold of. Engagement, again, working with other partners, their network of contacts will be different, might be wider than yours. You might be able to sort of reach a sort of wider group of people. And obviously, you'd hope, if the partnership goes well, that you would be strengthening your relationships with your partners and the people that you're working with. And also, don't underestimate the value of having sort of that support network with your partners. If things go wrong, you get a bit disheartened, having the other people there to sort of help you through things really does give a lot there. So, actually, I'll probably just tell you what these are. The top one is an interpretation board just down the road at Chesham for a river restoration project that we were involved with. And it's obviously a very nice sort of thing to have beside the river restoration so people know what we've done, but it also gives a bit of recognition to all the partners that were involved with that. And the bottom one is a sort of indicative design that we were able to produce for a river restoration project that will be breaking out a channel which is currently in a concrete box, essentially, into a more natural, sort of sinuous channel. So what's key? If you're working in partnership, what do you need to be thinking about to make sure that it works well? Approach your partners early. All of these things are very simple, but it's amazing how many times partnerships just break down because some of these key things are forgotten. I find if you bring partners on board early, let them help shape the project, you've got a huge amount more buy-in from people than you would do if you produce the project brief and then say, do you want to do this? Especially true with landowners. You need to get them in at a very early stage so that they feel that they've had an input and helped to shape the project. Agree aims and expectations. What do you want to get out of the project? What are the limitations going to be? How are you going to make the most of it? sort of clear leadership, roles, responsibilities, make sure all the partners know what they are expected to do, and what all of the partners can expect from the rest of the partners. Find quite often projects can tend to sort of stagnate a bit if people don't know who's expected to do what, so no one ends up doing it, so it just sort of peters out a bit. Understand and appreciate other partners' skills. Everyone's bringing something to the table. It's no good if one person is thinking, oh, I could do all of this better than everyone else. Why are you working in partnership at all? The whole point is that everyone is valuable, and it's about recognising what value everyone brings to the table. Planning, massively important. Agree all your milestones, your deliverables, your timescales, and make sure that you try and sort of keep planning and evolve that planning if things change. Especially true with timescales, we find that our funding is obviously tied to the financial years, so that puts a huge amount of pressure on when we need to deliver things and what we're able to deliver within the financial years. Regular communication, obviously quite simple, but I find it quite useful to actually agree how you'll be communicating. It might be by email, it might be by meetings, it might just be by phone, or it could be a combination. But actually sort of setting that out, sort of how often shall we meet, what's your preferred method of contact, just makes things run a little bit more smoothly. And be flexible. The amount of times a project will change throughout the process, no matter how much planning you do. It might be that additional opportunities come up, you might get a bit more funding, your funding might be chopped. It might be that a partner is pulled onto other priorities, and things have to change a little bit with the timescales. The one at the top, we actually worked with the Wild Trout Trust on an event recently, and they let us use their building, which is very nice. And the one at the bottom is on River Misbourne, and we're doing a bit of channel narrowing and wetland scrape creation. So what can we bring to the table? I sort of mentioned that we're able to sort of carry out some survey work and things if we're involved with projects. We've got a huge amount of river restoration experience, and I can sort of pull on other people within the organisation who've got sort of other bits of experience as well. Funding, sometimes, increasingly not so much, but over time we tend to be able to fund things. If we've got projects in the pipeline, if we've got a bit of funding that suddenly comes up, we can quickly deliver a project. That sometimes works. Reputation, we're obviously very well known, we're sort of countrywide, so our involvement in projects can help to secure other partners, can also help to sort of secure other bits of funding. Flood risk advice, anything with rivers, you'll need a consent, we can help with that process, but we can also help to sort of advise you on the implications of what you're doing in terms of flood risk, and whether there might be any other opportunities that you might have missed in terms of reducing flood risk to the area. Records, we have a huge amount of data that we hold on to. We have regular survey sites that we sort of conduct fish surveys and things like that on. So you can use a lot of that as the evidence base for your partner, for your project work, and it can help to inform what you'll actually be trying to get out of it. The image at the bottom is actually some LiDAR, and we've recently, over the last couple of years, got geomorphologists into our teams, and they are amazing. They can access this data, which sort of gives you all the land levels, and a lot of our rivers have been moved quite drastically over time. So the actual historic location of the rivers has been lost. A lot of it's sort of through the milling industry and things like that. So these LiDAR images can actually help to show up where the old channels were, where lost meanders were, and it can really help with sort of larger scale river restoration projects, actually restoring some of that sinuosity back into the rivers. Bit of a case study now, and this is obviously following on a bit from what Sean was talking about. The first time I actually had any dealings with the Wild Trout Trust was off the back of a day that River Chess Association actually organised, and it was a practical day teaching people the skills, how to use woody material to improve the rivers. I was really impressed with the format of the day, but also the fact that the aim wasn't just to improve that little bit of river, it was to give people the skills, the knowledge, the experience to actually go and improve their bits of river elsewhere. So it wasn't an isolated improvement, it was sort of the opportunity to go out and improve other bits. We've been lucky enough for the last couple of years to get some funding to spend with the Wild Trout Trust, and we've actually delivered a lot of these sort of days ourselves, building on that format. The image on the, well, my right, your left, is the flyer that we sent out with the invites, and the one on the other side is a sort of group photo of all the volunteers next to a sort of brash feature that they've just created. We have quite a lot of different partners involved to sort of greater and lesser extents. The Wild Trout Trust obviously were our main partner. They carried out the sort of training aspects on the day, bought some of the equipment and things like that for us as well. The water companies, they provided a bit of additional funding, so we were able to provide lunch to the volunteers, and they also then had a bit of a captive audience to raise some of the profile of the issues affecting our water bodies. Landowners, obviously we needed their agreement, but they were also really key in trying to get some of the materials that we used on the days. Chiltern Chalk Streams Project Officer, Alan Beachy, around here somewhere, does a new river fly demonstration for us. Local groups, really good for publicising the event, bringing in more people, and actually sort of giving us a bit of local knowledge about the stretch of river that we'll be working on. And our flood risk team, obviously, we work with them quite closely to make sure that the work we're intending to do doesn't increase flood risk, which would be the last thing we want to do. So we sent out all the invites to all of our contacts and sort of said to them, please send on if you've got anyone you think might be interested. We had 12 days over this year and last, and we've had over 200 people attend these events from 60 different organisations. And we've actually had people as far away as Cambridge and Sheffield come down for these day-long events. So they're quite keen to be involved, and it's been really amazing how many people want to come along to these every year. The practical work, some of the images up here just show the sort of techniques that we actually do on the day. We try and demonstrate a range of techniques that people get involved with and learn how to make. Top left is a sort of brash berm area that we've created. The bottom left is just sort of keying in a deflector into the bank. The one next to that is just taking a deflector in place. The top one is sort of a group photo in front of some paired upstream deflectors. And the bottom right is sort of some people creating a faggot bundle that will be used in the river later on. I'm not sure how clear these are going to be, but these are sort of some before-after and later shots. This is on the River Gade, and it's a chalk stream. This is a very unusual amount of water for the River Gade. It's normally a sort of little trickle through the middle of this. But the trouble is that the channel is massively too wide for the amount of water that's in there. So the flow is spread out very thinly across a very large channel width. So some of the work that we tried to do was using brash bundles, sort of faggots, to mark out a bit of a low flow, sinuous low flow channel within the overall wider extent of the channel. Pack behind it with more faggots and brash. That will help silt up over time and establish vegetation things, and just keep the channel, as you can see in the last couple of photos, keep the channel a little bit smaller so that the gravels are washed clean, creates a much better sort of spawning habitat for fish and a bit more of a variety of flow types and habitat types within that river. It's a bit sort of drought proofing for that river, so when the low flows drop, it's got a smaller channel, it's still maintaining a sort of good level of flow through there. I touched on this before, lunchtime talks. The water companies provided the lunch for us, and they came along. I think the water raised the profile of some of the water efficiency measures and things like that. We've actually got one of the highest water uses in the country, and all of our chalk streams are suffering because of over-abstraction. So it's really, really quite a big issue in our area. So they gave out lots of free water-saving devices and sort of raised the profile of that a little bit. Thames Water spoke about misconnections to sewer systems. A lot of people don't realise they're connected into the wrong one, so it ends up polluting our rivers. Alan Beachy, as I mentioned earlier, did a demonstration of river fly monitoring, which is a sort of recognised technique of monitoring the health of your rivers. And because we agree thresholds, it can also be a really great way of flagging up any pollution incidents as well. We also had one of our flood risk officers involved in each day. They came along to explain the consenting process, so no one was put off if they wanted to actually carry on with the works that they learned how to do. But it also, from my point of view, it gave them an idea of what we mean when we're talking about using woody material in channels, what sort of techniques that people might be coming to them with the consent for, so that they're much more likely to understand what it is that we're trying to do and make the whole thing a little bit easier. Had overwhelmingly positive feedback, which meant that we were actually able to secure additional funding last year. One of the sort of main things that we were getting from people was that they really liked the practical aspects of it and the fact that they could then go on and improve other bits. Also, we had quite a few sort of local river groups saying, we've been doing river clear up days for years, pulling all this stuff out of the river, and didn't realise that it had value. So even if they don't go and install anything, the fact that they're not taking it out anymore is, amazing. So some of the outcomes that we got from all of these. Our reputation was improved, working with the Wild Trout Trust, the really well-respected, very fish-friendly organisation. They're really great at working across a sort of range of different backgrounds, getting some key messages across, and by sort of association, we found that people are much more willing to come and talk to us and involve us in projects. Increased our contacts massively. A lot of these people I'd only ever sort of sent emails to or phoned up, and obviously they sent them out to their friends as well, so it's increased the amount of contacts that we have within the catchment and elsewhere. But it's also helped other people make links. So these days were a really good opportunity for people to network between organisations and different local groups and things, share ideas and see where they can work with other people to get better benefits. Increase awareness of some of the issues facing our rivers, over-abstraction, pollution, things like that. Most of all, they've gained the skills to be able to go and improve their bits of river. So this is just hopefully going to exponentially improve all of our rivers. Improved understanding of river habitat. People now understand what sort of sensitive maintenance of river channels is, working with natural processes as opposed to against them to try and help maintain flows. And we improved about 1 kilometre of river over the 12 days. And we actually had quite a nice bit of anecdotal evidence from last year where we carried out a fish survey 2 weeks after we'd installed some features on the River Raisbury. And for the first time at that survey site, they recorded 2 large eels that were hiding up in the slack area behind a brash berm that we'd created, and a number of large chub actually within the feature itself. Bit anecdotal, but it shows how quickly these features are used once they're installed. So, yeah. There you go. Any questions?